Hi, my dear Astro family. Today, I wanted to make a video for you about the upcoming solar eclipse, which is going to be taking place on the 14th of October. Now, I know that I've been doing this video a good 6 weeks earlier, but one of the reasons why I wanted to do that is because I feel like this is a major one, and unfortunately, it might bring back COVID restrictions. So I thought that I would give you a heads up how I feel about this solar eclipse, and I hope you will find it useful. If you do so, please press like and also subscribe to the channel so I can make further free of charge videos for you. I would like to also make an announcement. I am going to be doing a course on how to spot money in your natal chart. Now, I did make a course this year at the beginning of the year. That was pretty much part one. That was a 12-week course, and I introduced loads of techniques how to spot money in your own chart. But this second course is the extension of that. So I will be looking at another techniques to give you a full picture about how to make a financial profile. And I'm going to be sharing information most likely you have never heard of or you cannot find anywhere online. For example, we're going to be looking at North Node in financial astrology, and the very first planet it makes a conjunction to in your natal chart. How does that relate to your finances? Or are we going to be looking at the Venus Mercury cycle? Or are we going to be looking at the prenatal eclipse degree? And how does that affect your finances? So it's going to be a very exciting course. If you would like to grab your seat, go ahead, go on my website, AstroViktor.com, and sign up for the course now. I think the price is really affordable, so hope to see you there. But let's get started with this solar eclipse. First of all, I would like to give you a bit of a general information about how to approach solar eclipses. And this is something very important to understand, that solar eclipses run in cycles. Every 18 years plus 9 to 11 days later, we have got the same eclipse family running. We call it astrology as the Saros family. Now, one family is running for about 1,300 years. So basically, imagine that the very first family starts running when the sun and or the moon are approximately about 15 to 18 degree away from the north node or the south node. And that's the start of the eclipse. And then, I don't know, 600 years later, they start coming closer, and then it's going to be somewhere around 10 degree apart. And then eventually they're going to make an exact conjunction. So this family is running for 1,300 years. So therefore, what you need to be seeing very firstly when you're trying to analyze your solar eclipse chart is the original chart. And this is what I would like to show you now. And I'm going to put the original chart on the screen so that we can look at what themes the original eclipse family carries. Why is it important? Because just think about family karma, right? What we learn from our families, we tend to be applying those in our lives as well. Subconsciously or consciously, either way, we're going to do that. So this is exactly the same way how it works with the Soros families as well. It's kind of like having a tree, and then every single time when there is the eclipse coming around, then it's kind of like new leaves are coming, adding to it, but the root of it, the trunk of the tree remains exactly the same. So looking at this chart here, what we see is that the original eclipse took place in the sign of Cancer on 8 degree, and then it has got quite a tight trine with Saturn-Pluto conjunction. Now, maybe to help you out a little bit, what I'm going to do here firstly is if you use Solar Fire, then I'm going to show you how to find this eclipse family. So you just go on these goggles here, you click on that. This is going to be 134 Saros cycle. So then you can click on that and then you just put down the start date. Now, you can put down, I don't know, I put down 400 there, and then you just go on the search button. And then the very first one you can see is 1248 June 22nd, and that was a partial solar eclipse. And it was partial for about almost 200 years, and then it becomes a total solar eclipse for about 300 years. And then when you scroll down, then you can see it becomes a hybrid one, and that's going to be running for a good 400 years as well. And then we have got the annual eclipses, and then it's running till, it's going to be here. So that's what we want to be looking at as a secondary chart. But the very first one you want to be looking at is the original chart. So here you go, you will be able to see here. Now, whatever house system you want to be using, that's completely up to you. I tend to be using call sign house system. When you are looking at these, I don't recommend looking at the house positions. You might want to be looking at just the sign positions and get a little bit of a theme. A couple of rules here you need to be considering. First of all, you want to be looking at, okay, is there any type of aspects very close by to the eclipse? And secondly, is there any other important configuration going on in the chart? So what we see here is, for example, that this eclipse is happening on 8 degree of Cancer. So think about what Cancer is. It's very much about the home environment, your home countries, but something to do with your emotional foundation and your roots as well. Now, this chart really much featuring the Saturn-Pluto cycle here. Basically, they are having a conjunction there. Think about when we had the last Saturn-Pluto conjunction, 2020, January 12th. So it looks like this eclipse family is somehow gonna be triggering the Saturn-Pluto conjunction which took place. Now, as far as I remember, the very first day when WHO announced that COVID is something which is a worldwide problem, they basically kind of introduced COVID situation. So this is one of the reasons why it looks like that this eclipse is bringing somehow Saturn Plutonian themes back. Obviously, looking at the Saturn Pluto in the sign of Scorpio, which is very much about loads of fear, loads of insecurities overall, there is the need here to face our own fear and to overcome that. But also, it could talk to us about some type of crisis situations. Secondly, because the base of the eclipse is something to do with Cancer, which could indicate, for example, the home environment, so the construction works and buildings and housing and so forth. And then the Saturn Pluto conjunction takes place in the sign of Scorpio, which is something to do with money. So it would talk to me about the possibility that something in the real estate industry is going to go down. Most likely the prices will drop. Now, in order for us to get a bit of a better feeling, we're going to have to be looking at the current solar eclipse chart, because that's going to tell you exactly what to expect. Let's just think about it. Pluto is in the sign of Capricorn, which is very much about the power getting restricted here, whether we're talking about personal power or the power of government or the power of banking system and so forth. And of course, Saturn is in the sign of Pisces, which might be bringing in something to do with medical matters. So this is the reason why I thought that these two topics are going to be extremely important in this upcoming eclipse. Now, another thing you can see here is that this eclipse has got a conjunction to Neptune. So Neptune is something to do with music and creativity, but also it represents addictions, medical fields as well. And some people tend to be looking at Neptune as the planet of viruses also. So again, somehow the medical field gets activated here. Now, this is the base of the eclipse chart. hopefully that is actually making sense. I want to do a little bit of a recap for you on it. How I usually read eclipses, and this is something I was teaching quite in depth in my lunar node course. And we did just some random chart analysis with the participants, and they really kind of uh, made a testimony that it works brilliantly, how well we can see how the eclipse is going to be affecting us on a personal level as well. So you want to be first step, you want to be looking at the base chart of the solar eclipse or lunar eclipse, whatever eclipse you are looking at. You want to be looking at the tightest aspect to that eclipse, and you want to be looking at any other important signature of that chart, such as here the Saturn Pluto conjunction. Then you might want to be going onto your natal chart, and you want to be looking at, okay, what is happening, for example, with Saturn, what house it goes through in my chart, what house Pluto goes through in my chart, and what house the eclipse is actually taking place. So if I want to show you that, exactly what I mean by that, then I'm just gonna, sorry about that, I'm just gonna bring up my own chart, and then I'm just going to show you. So I'm just going to go on that and I'm going to open it. Okay, clicked on the wrong one, of course. So what happens is that Saturn is pretty much going through currently my first house. Pluto is going through my 11th house. And Neptune is also going through my first house. And the eclipse is going to be taking place in my 8th house. So if I start putting the keywords together, 8th house, 11th house, and first house, it's something to do with transformation of personal goals. This is one way how I can interpret that. Okay, but I don't want to go into this so much. I just wanted to give you a bit of a practical tip about how to read your natal chart. Now, the next thing you might want to be doing is that you want to be bringing up the current solar eclipse chart, because that's going to be able to give you a little bit more clues about what is exactly happening. So you can see that obviously it's going to be taking place on 21 degree of Libra. Remember the base. So try to bring together, for example, Libra and Cancerian elements here, because Cancer was the base of that, right? So it's something to do with a communication, for example, with a family member, or a communication or some type of negotiations with a home country or with other countries. It could pretty much talk to us about conflicts in our home countries, because Libra is about negotiation, agreements, but unfortunately, this is the sign of war as well. Now, you can see that this eclipse is actually featuring Mercury. So loads of communication is going to be taking place here, loads of debate and loads of kind of like information being shared as well at the same time. And it might be about emotional foundation, it might be about housing, it might be some type of contractual agreement when it comes to, let's say, purchasing a house, or a contractual agreement about who can have a family. What is the reason for having, because Libra is also about reasoning as well. So what is the reasoning behind having, let's say, fluctuation around the real estate industry? Remember that Libra is always going to be about making a decision about something, but also at the same time, it gives us the chance to build the way we negotiate with others, whether we want to be compromising our principles and needs as well. But at the same time, it is asking us to balance something out, balancing our relationships, or maybe recognizing something to do with other people's needs as well. But most likely, because this is a South Node eclipse, it's very much about not wanting to see yourself through the lenses of others, and learning to be able to build your own individuality as well at the same time. Of course, Libra is talking about justice system as well. It could very much talking about having the chance or having the opportunity to make a very important decision in your life. You know what? It's most likely that we're going to have to make peace with something. We're going to have to create some more harmony in our environment. For example, uh, if you look at this chart here, then you can see that the dispositor of this eclipse is Venus, which is in the sign of Virgo. And that talks about order and to a certain extent chaos as well, but at the same time fixing something, maintaining a balance in our life, fixing something which is not working in our relationships, the ability to recognize some of the value of having a strong partnership with others, how we are connecting with others. But because the North Node is a sign of Libra, it is very important that we maintain our individuality as well at the same time. I also feel like that this eclipse is very much about having or forming close personal relationship with others. Some of you might have got the kind of like the urge to be in a relationship as well at the same time. Definitely, this eclipse can bring loads of issues when it comes to personal relationships as well, because you can see in this eclipse chart that Venus is having an opposition to Saturn. So oppositions are relationship aspects, surely, but it's while I'm trying to fix, for example, a relationship, Virgo as in fixing, Libra as in a relationship, we run into some type of challenges. We running into a wall. We're trying to fix something, but another problem is coming to it. There is, by the way, a Mars trine to Saturn as well. So this is obviously Mars wants to be running. Saturn is trying to be a little bit more on the cautious side. So it's about really much about pacing. It's not about running the marathon. It's about making sure that the energy level is spread and to stay grounded as well at the same time. Now, what we also I would like to mention about this eclipse is that it's falling onto Gemini dot. So this is definitely about communication, about relationships. Most likely we can see, I don't know, celebrities breaking up, for example, or something to do with loads of communication when it comes to political matters as well. And the political matters are coming into the picture because Pluto is in the sign of Capricorn. It's very much about flexing the muscle a little bit. You know what, I'm strong, or this is what I can offer you, and so forth. Now, by the way, if you want to figure out what was going on in your life or how this eclipse is affecting you, you might want to go back to 2005, for example, or 18 years before that as well, because the eclipses happened in the same sign. And as I said, the eclipses are always the continuation of the previous one. Something gets added to it. Also, um, as I said, this eclipse started in 1248. So if you are curious about additional meaning of these eclipses, you might want to be looking at, okay, what was going on around that time as well. I feel like this eclipse is really much talking to us about how we getting stuck somehow, why we are afraid and working with our fears and remembering that the fear is also becoming a tool to motivate as well. With that Saturn Pluto conjunction, this is something which is coming to an end. It is telling you to somehow move on with your lives, embrace your own power as much as you can. Further possibilities with this. I mean, the last time when we had a conjunction in the sign of Capricorn between Saturn and Pluto was in 1517. And there was unfortunately kind of like the Protestant Reformation began in Wittenberg, Germany, around that time when Martin Luther, a teacher and a monk, published a document called The Disputation of the Power of Indulgences, or 95 Theses. So it was questioning, somehow challenging authority. And if you think about that, Saturn is about authority as well as the government, and Pluto is the great destroyer, then we can expect something similar here as well. We had a dancing disease called dancing disease in 1518. Now, Pluto is the planet of poison. Also, it talks about demonic forces as well. And Saturn can represent anxiety and stress also. At the same time, Saturn Pluto in the sign of Scorpio in the original chart could have talked to us about something to do with infestation somehow. And that's also very possible. But definitely, what it is talking to us about how the political world will be changing. It is kind of like the time when new leadership is emerging or new industries coming into the picture. Somehow the economy starts changing here. On a personal level, this eclipse is reminding us to be more mature, to be more responsible, and having too much fear or the fear of future is not going to be moving you forward. It could also talk to you about such things as changes of borders, for example. Uh, Again, this is, I've been saying it for a while that, maybe a country is going to announce in the European Union that they want to leave. I still hold on to that idea that it's going to be happening in the next couple of years. And then an influence of an eclipse lasts for about 18 months at least. I also would like to mention that as well. So the current cycle with Saturn Jupiter started 12th of January 2020. So that gets somehow triggered here for us. And it could also talk to us about that, unfortunately, a political figure is going to pass away, for example, but also parenting topics could be coming up, or power control. It could talk to you about the unemployment rate as well, that it's going to be somehow getting higher, for example. And this could show even economic recessions, pretty much the beginning of that. So this is some of the um, notes I would have liked to make about this eclipse so far. Now, further very important um, information I would like to give you is that one of them is that this eclipse, the current eclipse, is in conjunction to an asteroid called Persephone. Now, if you would like to look up Persephone, then its astrological number is 399. And Persephone shows in our chart where we might feel captive, where we are not allowed to be ourselves. Uh, it talks about an element of a rebirth as well, and something to do with marriages and breakups and divorce, but also being kidnapped or being abducted, our rights somehow being taken away because it's in the sign of Libra. So that's another reason why I kind of believed that unfortunately COVID restrictions could be back in the picture as well. Another asteroid which is playing a significant role here is going to be Isis. And if you are curious about where it is, then its astrological number is 42. So you can look at where that is in your natal chart. But Isis is going to talk to us about, well, Isis in ancient Egypt, the goddess was associated with pretty much about Venus and Virgo traits in a sense. And she is talking about floods, for example, on one hand. Secondly, it could talk to us about forgiveness. especially towards our partner, but in negative ways, it could talk to us about jealousy, unfaithfulness as well. So some of the most important meanings of that in the sign of Libra is very much about devotion, creating that well balance. It would talk to us about diplomacy as well at the same time, having a mutual respect when it comes to commitments, and also creating that harmony within the relationship. So Isis is something to do with a relationship overall. It's not just the personal relationships, but when it comes to your when it comes to any type of connections in your life. And thirdly, what I would have liked to mention is that it has got a very tight in conjunction to Uranus as well. So something suddenly breaks out, something is suddenly happening and causing a bit of a havoc overall. Now we can see that we have got the South Node in Libra getting activated. And this is instigating us to stop seeing yourself through the lenses of others. It is telling you that I've got the right to be beautiful. I've got the right to have harmony in my life. And the ruler of that is Venus, which is in the sign of Virgo, having that opposition to Pisces. So this is one of the reasons why it could really talk to us about not wanting to hold on certain type of relationships which are not working anymore. But Venus in Virgo is always striving for some perfectionism as well. So let's say Libra and Virgo, how does that come together? We want the partner to be perfect. And obviously, that's not going to happen somehow. It could talk to us about having very high standards, having high standards set towards people, to countries, to loved ones, and so forth. Are they able to live up to those standards? It is also telling you to look at whether there is emotions going on within your relationships, or we are a little bit more on the practical side overall. But at the same time, what is the cause of your low self-esteem? Why you think that you are not lovable, for example? Why are you not believing in fairy tales? And Venus in Virgo tends to be actually having the tendency to believe in fairy tales. So maybe you're going to have to say no to that, the perfect world is somehow not existing. Also, why am I unable to show emotions when it comes to my relationships? Or it could even talk to us about looking at the intimacy department a little bit more and not to worry all the time. It's very much about not confusing love with the task. Love is not something which is a hard work. It comes naturally to show the emotions. But also, why am I feeling like why I feel loved when I work, for example, or why do I not feel valued, or why am I not allowed to be beautiful? Why am I having to have others all the time to, let's say, become beautiful? It's kind of like the Cinderella effect, I call it. So these could be some of the major topics you're going to have to look at within your relationship, for example. Definitely Venus in Virgo pretty much talks about hygiene and preventions as well at the same time. So even though if we do not have a lockdown, I feel like when it comes to wearing a mask and these type of things, unfortunately, we'll be back for the winter. From a mundane point of view, Virgo is very much about the health industry, as well as something to do with feeling discriminated, the sign of discrimination. And of course, thirdly, it will talk to you about your working right conditions as well. So I feel like this will be the three topics in the world with this upcoming eclipse. So guys, this is the way how I see this eclipse this time around. I hope you have enjoyed it and see you very soon. Bye-bye.